Liam, presumably there's been a little spring in the step of everyone after Tuesday night. Yes, a Papa John's Trophy game, but it's a victory and one that the club needed.
Yeah, definitely. I think the perception when you go into those games, and obviously we're reasonably strong. They're quite young. The perception is it should be a breeze. It should be easy, but I don't any no football games like that anymore. I think West Ham players big game for them in terms of they'll be fired up. Energy. They're well coached. They're well set up. There's some decent players, so it's never going to be an easy game. And I think where the group's at. If we'd have probably scored early on, it would have settled the group a little bit. But overall, when I challenged the group to probably have more impact in both boxes than what we did, for example, against Peterborough, and definitely saw that. They one shot on target they had versus we had a really good number of chances where I look back and six really really good chances, two obviously which we score, and then I look at Connor's first half, Dan Harvey's header, one off a set piece, Matt Dennis's second half. We carried much more of a threat in the attacking third of the pitch, so and a clean sheet. So like I said, there was a huge number of positives to take around it. It's a really small step in the right direction of where we want to be heading.
He's an interesting player, Matt, isn't he? Lively, buzzy, um, wants to attack the ball all the time, always calling for the ball. Just needs to maybe sharpen up a little bit, but he's got some real quality, hasn't he?
He's got some terrific attributes. I think it's now about teaching him and him understanding how to use them consistently, and that was probably the pleasing thing the other night. I thought he ran the depth well and ultimately got in the box. That when you play a single nine like we do, you need a bit of discipline with that. You need to playing the last man, threaten the depth, and then especially when we work it high in the wide areas, you need to make sure that you're in the right position, to score a goal like he did. It was a terrific goal.
And just on Zach Jules as well, been having a chat with Zach. Um, I mean, are we? There's no shying away from. I spoke to Zach about Dean Lewington and about the role that Dean's had at the club, and lots of pretenders have come through the years to maybe take over Dean's place. And I think we've got to be realistic. Dean can't go on forever. Is Zach the kind of player who could be the future of the club in that position?
Yeah, I think it's on Zach, to be fair. I think when we looked at it last year, he's obviously had a frustrating start for him. Went out and obviously played, and I have to say he came back with a real attitude to impress and to develop and kind of grab the opportunity. Which I have to say he's done really well, and I've always been a big fan of Zach in terms of his character, and he's really progressed. When I look at him now as a player as well, we sit down and do clips, and his game's really come on. So I think that's the challenge. The opportunity is there for him. It's about grabbing it, and with quite a few of the group now, it's just consistently churning out performances. And I think a lot of the guys, that's the challenge of how do you week in week out, hit a minimum 7 out of 10. And I think I'm sure if you had a conversation with Skip and you were to ask him, the 900 odd games that he's played, how many of them are 7 out of 10s? I should imagine there's quite a fair few. And I think that's the big bit. It's not around being an 8 one week and a 5 the next. It's week after week, game after game, how do you churn out a 7 out of 10 minimum?
And those runs forward as well, they're very Darling-esque, aren't they, in their nature? Sometimes he looks good on the ball and can create something. When the game's maybe a little bit flat on Tuesday night, Zach Jules will take the ball forward and just something will spark, something will be created.
Yeah, I mean, physically he's terrific. And given his size, how good he is with his feet, with the ball around his feet in tight areas is incredible. To be fair to him, so yeah, he did really well. Obviously, driving out of it the other night that played a part leading up to the goal. So he, yeah, it's an attribute that it's now a case of using it when you need to and having an impact on games. And I think not just the other night. I think he's shown in a few of the games some really positive moments.
There's a couple of times on Tuesday night, and by all means, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you will. Um, uh, there was a couple of times when during commentary I said, "Shoot, just shoot," to one or two of the players. I guess when confidence isn't at its highest, players will tend to take that extra touch or make the pass for somebody else to have a shot. And is it perhaps about changing that mentality and actually having confidence in themselves to bury the ball from, you know, 15, 18, 22 yards out?
Glad you said shoot there. I thought you were going to say something else. I think. No, look. I think Definitely. I think that there's no hiding. We've had a tough start to it. And I think the one thing, especially when you've got players that care, we have got players that are emotionally invested, which is why you see the level of frustration or disappointment, or how that emotion's channeled. So I definitely think it is one, for us, for the staff, but mainly for the players as well, to really back themselves, to be positive in their actions, to whatever they decide to do, do it with real conviction. Go all in on every action that you do, and I think that then, in terms of trying to affect this, you've got a real positive mindset and you're brave and you're not fearful of making mistakes. Which I don't want the players to step on the pitch with any fear. I want them to be brave, and I've said it a lot before. Mistakes will happen. You'll never play the perfect game. It's then how you respond to that, and then try not to repeat the same mistake again. I think that's ultimately what learning is. So yeah, I think it was better the other night. Definitely, I thought we did create more chances. Again, the could we have maybe done a few more? Of course, I think you'll do that every game. But ultimately, I came away from the game going, we created 6, 7 really good opportunities to score, which ultimately, that hopefully in the future they'll go in.
Just if possible, I know we haven't talked about the injured players for a while. I just wondered whether we could get an update on how they're coming along. It's been a few weeks, past, and there's been the international break, etc. How's everyone shaping up?
Yeah, Mo's really progressing well. He's not a million miles away now. We hopefully we'll see in the next couple of weeks Mo back in training with the group, which is is a real big positive. And I have to give him and the medical staff a huge amount of credit. He's stayed so level and consistent. It's been 6 months now, and I have to say his mood's not changed. He's kept his head down. He's stayed positive. He's worked extremely hard. He's added gains in different areas to his game, so you can see physically he's a bit bigger now as well, which that's obviously a positive aspect, which hopefully we'll see the benefits of when he's back. But huge credit to him and obviously the medical staff that work with him. And T's similar. T's heading in the right direction as well. He's a little bit behind Mo, but he's back out on the grass, doing some of the physical testing, which obviously he has to complete certain things, and tick off certain boxes to progress in stages in his rehab. So he's heading in the right direction as well. So I think when you look at the experience, the quality, the character that them two guys have got, when you get them back in, in coming weeks, months, whatever it might take, it'll be a massive boost for the group as well.
Shrewsbury up next then, or Shrewsbury, however you say it. People say
Shrewsbury.
it. What are you?
Shrewsbury.
You're a Shrewsbury. I'm a
Yeah.
Shrewsbury, but that's fine. Let's call the whole thing off. So, what do you make of them so far this season? Lost the last game, but they're kind of mid-table.
Yeah, I think if you look at it, they recruited some really experienced, talented, physical players that know the league extremely well. When you go through the personnel they've got now in the team, uh, well organised, hard to beat, well set up, really difficult to play against, and carry a threat. So it's a really tough game. That was kind of the point I made. I think in terms of when I look at the league now versus a year ago, I think across the league, the level of squads, the depth in squads, the quality, and people have invested in their teams. The level across the league for me is a lot higher, and when I look at how they've recruited, they've had a really good summer recruitment wise, and I think there'll be a really tough opposition, definitely.
Thanks, Liam. Appreciate it.
No problem.
A quick update on how Dan Oyagoki's getting on. We saw him limp out on Saturday, didn't we?
Yeah, Dan's okay. It was one of those. I think it was as much precautionary and fatigue related as a major injury. I think he'd obviously come in here as his first taste of senior football, so having that, then going away in international break, featuring in two of the games, the travel, the demands on that, and then coming back and the demands of the game at the weekend, I think just caught up with him a little bit. So he's yeah, he'll be okay.
I suppose that's something else that we tend to overlook, isn't it? Not just the fact that he's a lone player, he's young, he's got a lot of games, but this is his first proper season in first team football. He's playing probably an awful lot more football than he may have in the last few years, and that's bound to take its toll.
Yeah, and I think that's right. The demands are so intense, not just physically but mentally. I think as well. That we've got a lot of young players that again I think are going through that similar experience of what the demands of League One are like, and I think that transition, that getting up to speed, that understanding how to manage your body, understanding how to manage your time off, it's extremely important as well. Understanding how do you progressively get better in a program where it's really difficult to train. How do you find the work that you need? That takes a bit of time, and I think that there's a huge number of factors of why things like that happen. But it's our job, it's the staff's job to support the players through that, and ultimately that's what thrives in our culture is development.
When we caught up with Tenno Watson a few weeks ago, when he was stood on the sidelines chatting with you and amongst us, he was telling us about the analysis work that you've been getting him to do on some of the opposition. And when you get injured players who are out for a little while, you've mentioned it before that you don't want them just concentrating on rehab, but doing other sort of sides of things to improve their all-round understanding of football. How important is it then that you've got someone like Tenno who's doing these, looking at clips and analysing opposition, and what else is it that you have them doing when they're injured?
Yeah, I think the game's evolved from that angle in terms of it. No longer is it you're in the treatment room, I'm not going to speak to you. I still think you can have it so that they obviously get the work that they need in terms of rehab and the gym-based stuff. But I also think there's a huge element where for me in terms of supporting them, whether it be around their game understanding, so that actually they come back with a greater knowledge of the game and understand why they perform the actions they do when they're playing. I think it's that. I think it's also think there's an element of them just understanding the process that the staff go through to provide the information for the players. I think there's a huge amount of work that the staff do to ultimately provide the players with around 8 to 10 clips. It's a 4 or 5 minute video that takes probably the best part of 8-10 hours to put together. So again, I think that the players understanding the process of what goes into it is massive, and then I think just feeling part of it. I think that when we talk around a team first mentality and everybody feeling a part of the team, that for me is whether you're fit, not fit. Everybody can contribute and play their part. So I think that, and then also we've done it a few times, and Bradley Johnson did it recently. Even though he's fit, he presented to the group as well, which again I think is it's a real powerful tool. I think just a life tool, let alone as a footballer, being able to stand up in a room in front of 25, 30 people and with confidence portray the knowledge you have or what you're presenting. I think that even for the guy like Skip's done it, Brad's done it, that at the stages of their career they're at, I think hopefully it'll be something in the future that will be of benefit to them in the next stage of their career.